Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to those here on the island of Nevis. It's a rainy night in Nevis. Thank God for the rain. We did need some rain and it has come. It is nevertheless a beautiful night and we are thankful to be here and to be alive. Good evening to our brothers and sisters on St. Kitts, to those of us listening from the diaspora, whether you're in the Caribbean, you're in North America, you're in the United States, you're in Canada, you are over in the United Kingdom, or wherever you may be. Good evening to you. This is Mark Brantley with another edition of On The Mark. Let me start by thanking the Honorable Troy Libert, who hosted this show in my absence last week. I'm very grateful to him. Sometimes at short notice I can call on my colleagues and they always respond positively, and so I thank him, and I'm told it was an excellent show as always when he would have hosted the local Rastafarian community, and so we are grateful for that and the opportunity, of course, to allow this as a platform for individuals to engage. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, I want to send warm greetings to everyone. I want to especially send warm greetings to those who might be under some distress, those who are hospitalized, those who might have lost their loved ones and who are suffering in some way. I want you to know that my thoughts and prayers are with you. Tomorrow morning, I resume my one-on-ones. That is an initiative that I launched since I entered public office, that on Thursdays I have what I refer to as an open day, when people can come and share their thoughts, share their concerns, if there are issues that they think I can assist with. That is what that day is for. I am told that I already have some 14 or so persons that have indicated they will come tomorrow. And normally I start at about 8:15 and I just go until I'm done. And so for those out there who may want to say something to me, may want to meet me, may have a concern, or for that matter just want to give some advice, I've had numerous occasions when persons have come just to pray with me and pray for me, and I am grateful for that as well. So tomorrow I resume my open day and I look forward to that very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I had some celebrations, and I want to thank God for the opportunity. I celebrated 28 years of marriage, and I think my wife deserves a trophy. She has put up with me for so long. If she's listening, thank you very much, Mrs. Sharon Brantley, for putting up with me all these years, and thank you for being my rock. I would also want to say happy birthday to my daughters, Brianna and Gabriella, both of whom are born in August, and both of whom have just celebrated birthdays, and say happy birthday to them and to all of those who are celebrating. I know that August is a month where many of us celebrate. For me, I always complain that it's a month when I'm always broke, because I have 2 birthdays and an anniversary in August. And you know, these days, they are really not for us men, you know, and let me make a plug for the men, because Valentine's, Mother's Day, birthdays, anniversaries, you know, they're really for the ladies in our lives, because we don't get anything. If you're lucky, you get a pair of socks or you get a tie, you know. That is why when Father's Day come around, you know, maybe you get breakfast. You know, Mother's Day is the big thing. We all know that, and we all understand it, and that is perhaps as it should be. So I just want to thank everyone for the outpouring of love and you know, all the greetings that I received. It was really, really wonderful, and I want to say how grateful I am that persons remembered and took the time out of their busy schedules to say happy birthday, happy anniversary, as the case may be. So thank you very much for that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's quite a lot going on. On the first opportunity after the election of August 5th, we would have come, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, the Honorable Alexis Jefferson, myself, and use this widely listened to platform to say thank you. We would have come to say thank you to the multitude that would have voted for us, and the people who again reposed their trust and confidence and gave us all 3 seats here on the island of Nevis. We are truly grateful for that, and we continue to express our gratitude to the people of Nevis for continuing to see that we are the better team and the better party to represent them in Bastille and to represent them generally. Now, I don't think it's a mystery. I think we all know that a local election is due. By our calculation, is due on or before March of 2023. So there's some time left to go. But it is due, And March is only, 6 or 7 months away from now, perhaps a bit more. We're in August, 5 and 3, about 8 months from now. And so we can expect that an election will be called as it's constitutionally due, and therefore we will have to proceed to an election at some point on or before March of next year. And so the issues, I think, will now be local issues because it's a local election. And we have made it quite clear as a CCM that we plan to run on our record. We believe that we have done remarkably well given the circumstances here on the island. Ultimately, it is for you, because they say it's always a dangerous thing to mark your own test paper. So you're the ones, the public, the voters, who will make that decision as to whether or not this government, led by me at this point in our history, has performed well enough for you to continue your trust and confidence in us. Now, I'll be the first to admit that there are some out there who have said to us that they have concerns. There are pockets of discontent, people who feel for one reason or the other that something has not gone quite the way they would have liked. But by the same token, I feel that we are not always about the individual, but about our island and our country. And sometimes I see, for example, someone may argue, well, you didn't do my driveway. And the answer is yes, maybe your driveway wasn't done, but the road leading to your home was improved remarkably. And sometimes I think that our people need to look at that and say, has the island progressed? Really, that is where it comes down to. Are you better off? Is the island better off? Have we made an improvement in what we met? Have we built on what we met? Have we rolled out projects that are meaningful, projects that are impactful? Those are the questions which, to my mind, are legitimate questions and questions that ought to be asked and, frankly, ought to be answered. And they're answered ultimately by you, because you're the ones who make that determination. You're the ones whom we serve, and you're the ones who have that decision to make. I always say, once an election is free and fair, your voice is the voice of God, and I am prepared to listen to that voice. And there was a lot of excitement after the last election because some felt that the NRP performed better than it should have. In fact, the NRP was very busy congratulating itself that it did not lose as badly as it ordinarily loses. That's a strange position for a political party to be in, when you're congratulating yourself that your loss was not as bad. But when we look inside the numbers, we see that really and truly, if it were a local election, then all 4 seats that we currently held would have been retained comfortably. In fact, I believe in St. John's, I would have won by 297. In St. Paul's, we would have won that seat by 114, the largest margin ever that we would have been able to obtain. In St. James, we would have won that seat in St. James by 189 votes. Again, a very significant margin. And then in St. George, we would have won that seat by 388 votes, almost 400 votes. So the truth is that nothing there changed. The only seat that we would not have procured, if this were a local election, is St. Thomas's. And we understand that St. Thomas's has never voted anywhere other than the NRP. We are trying to make that change at St. Thomas's. We feel that the people of St. Thomas's are no longer wedded to any political party. But if this were a local election, the result would have been 4-1. And convincingly so, because none of those parishes were even remotely close. So I'm not quite sure what the hubbub has been about. And unfortunately, I have found that some pundits have taken on this mantra of saying, oh, you're somehow in striking distance of the CCM. The truth is that that is the furthest thing from the truth. Because, let us face it, our people did not come out as we would have liked in this last election. There are many CCM stalwarts who didn't vote for one reason or the other. Many who said that they don't believe in federal elections. Many who had other concerns. And so the reality is that we have to, I believe, look at these numbers and say, even with all of that, even with, of course, the difficulties of incumbency, even with the NRP saying that they were new, they were females, they had all this new idea, new energy, at the end of the day, the people recognized that it was the same old khaki skirt. There was nothing really different about this NRP. Their position is and has always been attack Mark Brantley, attack the leadership of the CCM, and just keep doing it. And no matter how the people keep saying to the NRP, that will not work. Telling us why we should not vote for CCM is not enough reason why we should vote for you. We saw no ideas being advanced. We saw no policy prescriptions being advanced. We saw really concocted issues. I saw some billboards that went up all across Nevis talking about $400 million. One couldn't even read what was on the billboard. You had to park up and stop traffic if you wanted to read what was on these billboards. And I wonder sometimes who's advising the NRP. This constant refrain about 400 million, 400 million. I know it was a talking point given to them by the then paymaster, who's now history. But what is the point really? What is it they're saying? You see, we were asking the NRP to join us and to join all divisions together in this cause of saying that we needed a fair share. We needed equitable treatment in this country. That to me is a cause that knows no political color. The NRP refused to join us in that call, and rather, because they were getting financing from the PLP in St. Kitts, they decided that the best approach was to try to use whatever lines were fed to them from St. Kitts and engage in some argument that somehow $400 million had disappeared in Nevis. And I scratch my head every time I hear that refrain, because I wonder if the people who are saying it don't live here. I really wonder if they don't live here, if they did not recognize that from 2020, April or thereabouts, March, I correct myself, until now, practically, we have been in this COVID-19 pandemic. And certainly for 2020 and 2021, the country was essentially locked down. It seems to me that they forget the state of emergency. They seem to forget the long lines at the supermarkets and the days that people were allowed to shop, the curfews and people being locked up at home, the closure of our airports, the closure of our seaports, the fact that our hotel sector was shut down. The government had little of, if any, revenue that was coming. In fact, most government workers were at home. Government offices were closed. And yet, not one public servant was laid off in Nevis. And every public servant, every worker at our statutory corporations, NEVLEC, NASPA, NHLDC, NTA, and every pensioner on the island of Nevis were paid on time and in full. Now, why do I start there? I start there because you, the members of the public, ought to know that the cost to the government to pay our workers, I'm just talking now about our public servants, so I'm leaving the statutory corporations out of this, to pay our public servants and our pensioners, that cost is approximating something in the region of $8.5 million a month. You multiply 8.5 million per month times 12 months in the year, and my math isn't so good, but I believe that takes you over 100 million EC dollars in salaries and wages each year. Salaries, wages, and pensions, forgive me, each year. In fact, let me take my calculator, lest they say that I can't count so good. I will say 8.5 times 12 equals $102 million. That's what this government pays out every year. Now, I want you to consider that the amount that we were receiving from St. Kitts as an interim measure was a mere $45 million per year. Think about that for a moment. That is what we were receiving. So we're paying out $102 million, we're receiving 45. It means, therefore, that what we were receiving could not even cover salaries, wages, and pensions. Put that in the context of COVID-19, when our revenue was decimated. There was no money coming in because our earners, such as tourism, were shut down. And yet we kept the lights on, we kept our people working, we kept our people paid. As I said, not one check was missed. Everybody was paid on time and in full. Not one person was laid off. And yet people say, what did you do with the money? Well, the first thing we did was we made sure that our people were paid. Now, I don't know whether or not the other side would have sent people home, would have, as some places did, give them an IOU, would have said, listen, your monies are going to be cut or they will be late. But we took a decision in putting our people first, that whatever money we collected, we would put that towards paying our wages, our salaries, our pensions. And the reason that we did that, ladies and gentlemen, is because we understood that families are dependent on whatever they're earning from these jobs. We had a situation where many people, one spouse or one partner, one child, one member in the household worked for government. Others, for example, worked in the hotel sector. Others might be taxi drivers. They might be fishermen. They might be farmers. The problem was when the fishermen caught lobsters, they had nobody to sell them to. The farmers produced produce as usual. They couldn't go to the hotels to sell because the hotels were shuttered. And the hotel workers and taxi drivers were out of work. The bus drivers, with curfew on and all that, they couldn't go anywhere. And so we recognized that money that people who worked for government were earning, that money was critical if those families were to stay afloat. And so, in addition to all the stimulus and the concessions on electricity and water and all of that we put in place, we ensure that every single worker, every single pensioner was paid on time and in full. And I think that when the history of this period is written, that should be a highlight. And yet people say, well, I ought not to say the people, they're not the neighbors of negativity. They continue to say, what happened to the money? Well, go and ask the workers for government. Go and ask the workers for the statutory corporations that had, in some cases, to be assisted by the central government. Go and ask our pensioners. Go and ask those non-established workers who are getting a wage every week. Did they miss a payment? And the answer is no. We did what was necessary to ensure that every person got paid. In fact, for 20 months, I was the only person who did not get paid because I did not accept a salary as premier, nor any benefits for 20 months, as a show of solidarity, because all of us had to tie our belts. And that is what we did. That, to my mind, is what leadership does. But I just reflect on the amounts. So you're talking about $200 million. That's $102 million gone right there in 1 year. If you multiply that by two, $204 million gone over the course of 2 years, the 2 years of the pandemic. Bear in mind that this $400 million that is talked about came over the course of 7 years. The money did not come at once. The money came over the course of 7 years. During those 7 years, we had double salaries paid in 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 2021. 6 double salaries were paid. Again, all of that came from this $400 million. That extra month's salary to our workers at the end of December. 6 double salaries. You multiply that again by 8 or 8.5. You get 6/8. That is what you get in relation to how much money was paid out in terms of double salaries. We have not even yet got to projects. Because when we start to talk about projects, you had the Newcastle Police and Fire Station was done. The water taxi pier was done. And incidentally, with all that is said, it has been the single most important investment in our economy in a significant time. Why? Because we built it to support the local water taxi industry, which is 100% Nivision owned. 100%. Only Nevis boats are running back and forth at this point in our history. And we invested. And I was so pleased to see that music festival alone, over 8,000 movements from our 2 docks. One in town and, of course, the one that we built over that 7-year period at Wally. What else have we done? Look at what we've done in housing. Look at Maddens. Because sometimes, as I say, I wonder if the people who are talking don't live here. Take a drive over to Maddens. One of the best developments that we've seen anywhere, bar none. Take a drive. Have a look at the quality of homes and what people have done with their homes. And we haven't only been doing homes at Maddens. Garners, Maddens, Rices. Right here in my constituency, the Chimney Crescent, I think they're calling it, just by Cherry Gardens. Craddock Road. Up in Hamilton. Nisbet Settlement. We have about 6 or 7 housing developments that are happening simultaneously on this island. A first in the history of Nevis, where people are being afforded homes in different parts of the island at the same time. Providing housing for people. We have been engaged heavily in that. We look at road construction. A matter of fact, the same people who are now saying that they can't see where the $400 million has gone and are asking questions were the same people who criticized us relentlessly for doing too many roads. They said all the way up and down is building road, building road. And that was a big argument that they had, that we were building too many roads. But we built the roads. We did from Cotton Ground over there to Cliff Dwellers. We hope to start the other piece very shortly. We have done the Brown Hill Road, which is a masterpiece of construction done by our own Public Works Department, because our mantra is that big infrastructure should be done by us and for us, unless, of course, our team is too busy. We did Braziers, and I challenge anybody to drive through Braziers. Go all the way up to Church Ground. I remember when that road was just 2 strips. People used to fall off. Now we have a proper highway going up there and coming around. We did Hanley's Road. Look at Hanley's Road. Transformed. We are currently doing Bath. We are currently doing Butlers. We did all around town. Don't take my word for it. Go and see for yourself. Drive up now to go up there by the credit union and come around. You see how Spencer Brand has transformed that area. Drainage issues all in Ramsbury fixed. We did Shaw's Road. Sometime when you start at the foot of Shaw's Road and you look at the length of that road going up there, amazing piece of infrastructure. All of that was done. We did the Treasury building in town that was burnt to the ground. We rebuilt that. CCTV command center in town and CCTV with fiber optic all across town and now into the country areas as well via the Island Main Road. We're rolling that out as we go. We did the David Freeman Center of Excellence in Rollins, a facility that many who have gone have marveled at. Facility that only last year hosted Culturama for the first time outside the cultural complex. We completely redid the cultural village. We completely redid the Culturama complex. In fact, the complex now for the first time has tenting, covering. I want you, ladies and gentlemen, to take a look at what we've been doing in terms of education. The fact that we had to retool our schools, switch to a system of some online, some in-class training. What we had to do to provide devices to those families that didn't have, and free internet so that they could access the online training. Look at what we did in terms of investment in healthcare over that period. For the first time in history, the island of Nevis got 2 brand new ambulances at once. We invested in ventilators that I know have saved lives right here on the island of Nevis during the COVID pandemic, and we hope will continue to save lives. We are currently embarked on the largest expansion in the history of Nevis at the Alexandra Hospital, a building 2.5 times the size of the existing hospital. And thank God windows are in, and I'm told that even starting to do some painting up there. I keep asking our people living here, because remember I said the money was not even enough to cover wages. But you see how much I've already mentioned to you that has been happening nevertheless. Look at water. The largest expansion in water and water development this island has seen. But not only the CDB project, which we met and finished, about redistribution, improving the distribution system and the storage system, but also new water that we put in the system by investing in a filtration system at Hamilton to treat that water that was there and put that water now, bring it into WHO standards so we can put it into the system. Some people have complained because this has been a prolonged dry season. That's why I said at the top of the show that I'm so grateful for the rain. But people have complained and said, well, you know, we have some water outages from time to time. And I reflect and say, could we imagine how much worse it would have been if the Hamilton well had not been put into service by us? We have not abandoned the training of our young people, approving assistance, introducing for the first time that when they're doing online training in terms of online university, they can also get assistance from this government. It never used to be so. We changed the policy to allow it. Allowing our young people to attend university with some assistance from us. Ladies and gentlemen, we have touched every facet of the island's development, notwithstanding COVID. And our people are the beneficiaries of the efforts that we have made in that regard. Agriculture. We doubled down. We said that COVID taught us that we had to produce more of what we eat and eat more of what we produce. And so we invested in our farmers and our fishers, our livestock farmers and our crop farmers. We provided free seeds, free seedlings, free fertilizer, free land preparation, free fencing wire, free fish pot, free feed for our farmers. We invested in agriculture. And so, again, people say, oh, what has happened? Where has this money gone? Because that was merely a talking point that was given to them by the man who was paying them from St. Kitts. But let us look at the reality here on the ground and what has happened. You remember, as I tell you, the money received was not even enough to cover wages and salaries. Not close. But yet we did all these other things that our people have benefited from. We did resurfacing at the Vance Amory Airport. New equipment at the tower. New equipment for NASPA. Built the Finger Pier down here in Charlestown. All of this was done. And yet you hear people say, oh, what has been happening? And you ask yourself, where have they been? Where have they been? Because these things are obvious to anybody who's willing to open their eyes and see. And so we will be running on a record. Because I have marveled at the fact that we've just come through an election. And there really were no issues on the opposition side. Because cussing Mark Brantley is not an issue. Going around and taking pictures of Alexis Jeffers' house and saying he has built a nice home, that is not an issue unless you're trying to say that he got it somehow illicitly, and nobody can make that allegation because that would be patently false. Going around and taking photos of what people are driving and what people are, what they own in terms of their home and all that, those are not issues. How does that advance the island? In fact, all that does, it shows that there are some of us who continue to be envious of other people, grudge and badmine other people. And the question is why? I heard one of them saying recently about people have become millionaires under this government. So what? Shouldn't we wish that everybody can become millionaires? Shouldn't we hope that the environment in your country is such that people can go out there and invest and be entrepreneurs and become wealthy? The same people who are complaining that millionaires are emerging in Nevis are the ones who keep talking about how much poverty is in Nevis. And I wonder, well, how can they make the... I don't understand the argument. On one hand, you're upset because you say millionaires are being created. On the other hand, you're saying there's too much poverty. Which is the real position? And they continue with this staccato approach. There's no sensible discussion about issues that impact us. Issues of education, of healthcare. Issues of how we grow the economy. Nothing. Just a constant refrain. Oh, electricity prices are too high. Okay, but why are they high? It is not a failing of this government. Electricity prices are high the world over. Electricity prices are high because oil prices are high. And the only way we can get beyond that is for us to realize the renewable energy potential that the island has. That's the only way. So going and telling people, I heard one, I don't even know, they had a sign up here called Cowboys and Clowns. I don't know if they are cowboys or clowns, to be honest with you, because I believe cowboys and clowns would be offended if they were compared to what this bunch is trying to do. But I saw something that they put out. Oh, go to the polling station, walk with your light bill when you go to vote. Well, the results suggest that people walk with their light bill and they voted CCM. Because these little gimmicks that they continue to try are just that gimmicks that don't advance the country, they don't advance the debate. I got myself into some hot water because I started to criticize, say, I'm attacking women, because I said, listen, what has changed? I'll be honest with you, I was excited when the NRP put away, or claimed that they put away, some of these recycled people they used to bring back every election. And they put them into retirement. And they said they have a new slate, it's all women and new ideas. But after you start to listen, you realize the only thing that has changed is the gender. The approach is the same. The approach is the same. Anything happens, the sun gets too hot tomorrow, is Mark Brantley do it. Mark. People are tired of that. People are asking, what are the real issues? What are the issues? We just had a federal election. And everybody who followed that election knows that the NRP was being financed by Timothy Harris and the PLP in Sinkits. We know it. Just before the election, all these people were put on the peace program and different social programs. Well, who put them on? They put on in Sinkits. Why were they put on? When they go and they put on my people, them on my constituency, what do you think? They don't talk to me? And they were told, vote for the NRP, because if you don't vote for the NRP, you'll be taken off these programs. That was what people were being told. On the afternoon of election, I hear them talking about, oh, they ain't bribe and they ain't this and they ain't that, and I'm just sitting back and I'm just shaking my head. Because I said, God is not mocked, you know. The afternoon of the election, when the calls started coming to me, you know, the slang the youngsters use now, they say the bag reach. The bag reach. I mean, if it's a school bag, if it's what the old people used to say, a grip, meaning all kind of bag. Paper bag or plastic bag, but the bag reach. And young people say, when they say bag, that means the money reach. They're handing out the money. $500 a pop. 200 US a pop elsewhere. So why are they coming now with this posturing? As if, oh, they didn't do this and they didn't do that and they didn't do the other. That is why I say when you have no issues, you start now to talk nonsense. So you start now coming, for example, oh, we brought in people to vote. Why I say, well, this is a marvelous thing. Because I went into the polling station here at the Methodist Church, and the person I sat down next to is an NRP who don't live here. I was up at the food fair for Culturama, and I was talking to plenty of people up there whom I recognize as strong NRP supporters who don't live here. And as we went around throughout the day, and in the various polling stations working, and see the people in the line, we know our people and we know who support the NRP. So what you mean that nobody for the NRP was here? Well, so these people were what? Clones? I mean, let's get real. The reason why the NRP keeps being rejected is because they have no platform. that puts the people of Nevis first. Sloganism, jingoism, and Cosmark Brantleyism, that doesn't advance anything. And people are fed up because people are saying, well, listen, can we get a real debate in this country? Can we discuss real ideas in this country? Trying to get people to go and take photo of people's house and photo of what they drive and going on the ear and saying who a millionaire from who ain't millionaire. I heard one of them say, oh, some ministers acquired land. So what if a minister has acquired land? The question is, has he or she acquired any land improperly, illegally? Have they used their influence as a minister to acquire land? And I am not aware of any of our ministers who have acquired land from the government or acquired land through any form of influence as government. As far as I'm aware, those who sit in cabinet, whatever they have, they would have acquired in the private sector. They would have bought land from private individuals. In fact, and I will give the Honorable Alexis Jeffers maximum credit for this, because he has always said that once he is Minister of Lands, no minister will be able to buy any lands from the corporation. Can NRP say that? You all remember the ringtone? Land, land, house and land, house and land. NRP can't say that, because one of their ministers of lands was busy ensuring that daddy, wifey, brother, sister, and himself got land from the Housing and Land Development Corporation. Doesn't happen under the CCM. So when they have these things, almost as if they're saying to people, you must envy people, you must grudge people, you must envy them what they have. And I'm saying, but look at those in the NRP. One of them who's talking the most, as far as I know, was a public servant until finally they had to retire because the law didn't allow them to go on any further. They got all the extensions that the law allowed. All. And in fact, I signed most of them. And they worked and worked and worked until they could not go any further. I said, the law doesn't allow me, discretion doesn't allow me, the Public Service Commission won't allow me to go any further. Then I became the worst thing in the world. All along, things were good. I became the worst thing, an enemy to the state. But when you look at them, did they not acquire? Don't they own buildings and property around the island? And that is their right. This is ours. Nevis is ours. And we should encourage our people to own a piece of the rock and to invest. Not to send people to take picture of people's house and then to try and cuss them and say, oh, they got a nice house or what. Did they thief it or they work for it? Because if they work for it, they should have it. And we should be saying to our people, work hard for what you want. But that is what they are spreading. That is the propaganda, the base nature of this NRP. Somebody said to me the other day that they find it incredible that NRP people are always angry. And I said, you know, that is an interesting observation. They seem to be angry. Why are they so angry? Who has deprived them of what? Listen to their talk shows. Listen to their expressions. Listen to them on social media. Listen to what they say. Why are they so angry? And who are they angry with? I see a brother, one of these Daniel boys, living abroad, put up some comment and call Nevis people foolish because of how they voted. Not that his party is foolish for running candidates who have no appeal and no ideas, but that the people are foolish for how they voted. I would never insult the people of Nevis like that. Whether they vote for me or they don't vote for me, they have a right to vote for who they want to vote for. And that is the difficulty that I have, because the politics is not being raised up. We're not getting an opportunity to engage in meaningful debate. When you ask hard questions, like you asked the leader of NRP, what caused her to come back to Nevis 20 years ago? Oh, you're running a smear campaign. That is their response. You must give them a free pass on real issues of accountability, real issues of responsibility. But they must come with all kinds of nonsense about who's millionaire and who's not millionaire. That is the campaign that they're running. How does that help one family? How does it assist anybody? They throw these terms around. Corruption, this is a corrupt government. Well, where's the corruption? Where? And I am proud that I lead a government. We have introduced, enacted and operationalized integrity in public life. I have now filed, I believe, 3 years in a row, my statement of assets and liabilities with the Integrity Commission. We have provided an Integrity Commission, set it up, independent, own budget, own office. We did that. I recall when the Integrity Commission was discussed, that an NRP minister at the time said, you don't want an Integrity Commission because you can't legislate integrity. I'm sure I have the tape somewhere. This is their view. And they keep coming with these red herrings. One of them said to me, oh, this 400 million, we're going to use it like how we used the 80 acres against Malcolm. One of the biggest lies ever told in the history of politics in Nevis was this 80 acres. And they destroyed Malcolm with this 80 acres. And that is why I'm saying that I'm not going to sit back and allow them to go without response. Because it is high time that we say what is passing for discussion is really nonsense. Where are the ideas? Where are the plans? Where are the programs? Where are they? Because cussing Mark and cussing Zook is not a program. It's not an idea, you know. I tell people all the time, all of us are eminently qualified in the art of cussing. I born on Henley Park, grew up in Brownhill. If you're from Henley Park or you're from Brownhill, you can cuss. We're qualified, eminently so. All of us have PhD in cussing. But when you enter political life, when you enter public life, people are looking to see, well, what are your ideas that you're going to bring to make our lives better? And cussing somebody else is really not doing anything for anybody, you know. It may make you feel good because you have some personal issue. And a lot of us are grafting personal issues onto public life. I saw some buffoon put out something the other day, say that if NRP ran a stone against Mark Brantley, they will support the stone. So opposed they are to Mark Brantley. And I say, well, a stone must support a stone. Because for somebody to make such a comment, they can't be anything but a stone. But that is what some of them are. Upset with you, vexed with you, got personal beef with you, and they bring that now to the politics. And the venom and the upset is coming out. You can't have a conversation. You can't see them and say, good afternoon. One of them stood up in front of my Jeep in town, in the middle of town, huffing and puffing. Stood up there, refused to move. Why? Perhaps looking attention. I don't know why you want attention from me. He should look elsewhere for attention. Right? But you see, part of some of their problem is they realize that their best days are behind them. Behind them. So they now have nothing to look forward to. And every day they get up, they get angrier. Because their solution for their lives was to have their snout in the public trough. And each election they are denied. They get more upset. More upset. Because they have no backup plan. Some of them, in fact, let the record show that since the NRP lost government in 2013, some of them have not had gainful employment. You might ask, how are they supporting themselves? That leads to other questions. But you don't see them going to no job. And so they are hoping that the people of Nevis will somehow allow them to dive back into that trough. And we all remember well what they did when they were there. We all remember well the bubble that happened while they were there. And so let us, ladies and gentlemen, be sensible and pragmatic about this thing called politics that we have in our country. And I welcome the debate, I welcome the discussion, because I am proud to say, and I know my team members are proud to say, before God and man, our hands are clean. If it were not so, you would know, because they would have found it by now. Before God and man, our hands are clean. Not many can say that. We can say that. And we can say that confidently. And so I'm challenging the NRP. Find some issues. Find some prescription. Let us talk about COVID, how you would have managed the situation differently. Because we are receiving commendations all around for having one of the best COVID management records in our region. Little Nevis. Little Nevis. Tell us why you did not support the vaccination effort. Tell us why you could not support the fair share argument. Tell us the truth finally about your relationship with PLP. And you know what really irks me? The minute Timothy lose, all of them start to say how much they love Dr. Drew. How much they love Labour. I over there by the water taxi pier, I see a set of them come off some water taxi over there, red and ready. Redder than red. And I said, my goodness gracious, I thought the Labour Party had come to Nevis. All of them turn Labour because PLP lose. I guess orange is close to red in terms of color. Well, I don't know. I'm colorblind. But one cataflam. Today you're spending PLP money. Tomorrow PLP lose. You're Labour. And all of them are rushing now to say they want a relationship with the new Prime Minister. Nothing is wrong with having a relationship with a new Prime Minister. It is important to develop relationships. But don't believe that you are fooling anybody. Don't believe you're fooling anybody. You all are playing, in my view, a game. And that is one of the things I don't do. The CCM is a party that has always been straight with the people of Nevis. We have always conducted ourselves honorably. We have not always been right. But we have always been straight and honest and open. And that is what I think people ultimately respect. Even when mistakes are made, people say, listen, these guys are straight shooters. They come to us, they're honest, they're open. I'm here, or try to be at least every Wednesday. I have a monthly press conference, an innovation that I introduced and this cabinet and government introduced. Every month we go before the press to answer questions. I'm on social media. I have an open day. I am perhaps the most accessible premier we've had in the history of this island. And you can only do that when you have nothing to hide. You don't have to run away from your people because you have nothing to hide. And as I said, I will be the first to admit that mistakes have been made. All of us make mistakes. Jesus created Adam. Adam then begged and he got Eve. And as far as I know thereafter, there was Jesus. So God created Adam. Adam begged and got Eve. And then Jesus came later. Those are the only three perfect beings that I am aware of that the earth has ever seen. So all of us have fallen short. I believe it is said that we have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So mistakes will come. But people are not looking for leadership that is without flaws. People are looking for leadership that is honest and open and will stand up for them. And that is what the last election was about. And the people responded overwhelmingly to that very clear message. A message which said that we represent in the CCM leadership that you can trust. And that is what we have always been since the leadership of the late great Vance Amory until now. Leadership that you can trust. Now, before I open the lines, let me say one last thing. As part and parcel of this foolish argument, this Nancy story about $400 million, the NRP has now said that the word accountability is part of their debate. It's part of their narrative. And I marvel that the NRP would use that word. You know why I marvel at that? I sat down tonight at home and then I said, you know what, I wouldn't even bother. Because I said, if we start the debate, accountability. I am proud that as the Premier of Nevis, all of our financials are up to date. What our debt is, what our payments are, what emoluments are, what wages are. Nothing is hidden. Matter of fact, the Constitution dictates that there should be an independent audit report that ought to be tabled in the Nevis Island Assembly each year. I am here to tell you that the NRP was in office from 2006 until 2013, and they tabled no audited reports as mandated by the Constitution. When we got into office in 2013, we had to recreate all of those accounts and had the auditors and the audit office working overtime. In fact, we hired someone from St. Kitts, I believe it was a Mr. Edwards, who came and assisted us because we had now to recreate and bring up to date the audit reports. And then since then, I am proud to say that under my leadership, every year the independent audit report is filed. So when they talk about accountability and they want to know what government has done with money, read the audit report. Unlike the NRP, which was in breach of the Constitution, we are performing with the utmost of constitutional rectitude. And those reports are laid in the House. So if those who are now out there campaigning say that they don't know, then I am telling them, call my office tomorrow and I will make available to them the audit reports. Theirs that we had to recreate and ours that we have faithfully produced every year. Accountability. CCM in 2006 left $10 million US in an account at Scotiabank. Up to now we don't know where it gone. Poof, disappear. 10 million US. You have people now down in Nugents and those areas who bought land under the NRP, have even built homes in some cases and can't get their title up to now because the NRP did not pay the loan in Trinidad. And the people in Trinidad, the lender, have said that they will not allow any transfers until their debt is repaid. The CCM has been paying that debt. You want to hear about accountability? Tell us what happened at West Haven, where this NRP went and compulsorily acquired West Haven. In addition to some over 12 other pieces of land around this island, never paid for 1 square foot. Right now the people of Nevis owe somewhere in the region of $20+ million to the owners of West Haven. Just about 2 acres of land. That is what we owe. And we are seeking to find that money again to correct that wrong. We have given back lands to some people. There's a gentleman, if he's listening, Mr. Williams, lives in St. Martin. They took the man's land on a Jessup's, ain't pay the man a penny. We have to now deal with that. They took land over at the playground there in Cotton Ground. They didn't pay the people. We have to deal with that. So you talk about accountability. What about those hundreds of Nevisian people that you all removed from the voters list? In the dead of night. No hearing. Remove them, their only sin. You suspected they supported CCM. Has anybody ever apologized to those people for that? I saw people stand up in the line on election day and cry that their hair had never left here, born here, raised here, never string buried here, and they couldn't vote in their own country, courtesy of the Nevis Reformation Party. You want us to be accountable? You want to have that conversation with us? What about the Guyanese and the Spanish and the Jamaicans who you rounded up every weekend, put them in vans like common criminals and deported them? Send them out. Again, what is their sin? You said I support CCM. That was their sin. And when you send them, you put a notation in the immigration system that they can never ever come back to this country. That to this day, some of them are still calling and saying, I would like to visit my family in Nevis, but I can't book a flight to Nevis because there's something that is reserved for terrorists and criminals. That's what the NRP did to these non-nationals. And you all want to have that conversation with us? I would suggest to some of you who just come that before you all start to attack this CCM party, that you sit down and you examine the history of your party, particularly the history of your party from 2006 onwards. Because what we saw there was an aberration. It had nothing to do with the party of Sim Daniel. This was an aberration that came into being in 2006 and attacked people mercilessly. And you talk about accountability. I would suggest that there has been no more corrupt regime in the history of this island than the NRP regime we saw from 2006 until 2013. Never before in the history of this island has a minister of lands paid himself $500 to clean one of his own houses he built for his sister. Never before has the corporation resources been used to ensure that brother, sister, wife, father, and himself get property. Never before has a sitting minister and the legal advisor formed a law firm to do work for the government that they served and to do work for the very statutory corporation, the NHLDC, that they were chairman and director of. I know these things because we live them. And I remember when I went down into the parliament here and I said to my friend, former Premier Joseph Parry, I am sure you don't know this, so let me inform you. He was shocked because he didn't know. He did not know what the ministers under him were doing. When I pulled my file, because you know I always have my documents, one thing with me, I like receipts. And when I pulled my file and I asked him, are you aware of who all the attorneys? And who are all the attorneys? He had no clue. Right under his nose. And then they talk about accountability. Accountability? What about when they wanted to sell the offshore registry to the Lebanese? You all remember a company called Utico? Utico? Again, we in opposition got the information, brought it to the public, and that is how these deals were scuppered. You all remember that? You all remember a time in this country where every single piece of infrastructure was done by foreign firms. All the money went out of the island. Local truckers and back operators here were kicking stone. And then when we complained and said we had young engineers that needed an opportunity, the response was, when they come back from school, they don't know what they're doing. Let them go practice, learn how to drive. That's what our people were told. And you all want to have that conversation with us? I don't think it's a conversation you want to have. That is why one of them in campaigning in Bath said to people, oh, I'm not NRP, don't judge me, I'm not NRP. You're not NRP, but you're on an NRP ticket. So what are you? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the reality of the situation. That is why I say record. That's what we're running on. And when the bell tolls, and it will toll soon, we will go to the people and we'll ask the people a simple question. Are they better off now? Are they more comfortable now? Do they have a government that they can trust? And do they have a government which has shown, even in the worst pandemic that the globe has seen in 100 years, that we are with our people? And from their side we shall never depart. And that is what I think our people look for in leadership. It is 2 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. I'm now going to open the lines. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's anybody out there listening and wants to call, the numbers are 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. We have a full hour, and so I expect you to call, make your points, And as I said, always, let us respect each other and respect the standards set here at Von Radio. We don't have to agree, but let us not be disagreeable. Let's go to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Miss Sheriff.
My dear friend, how are you?
And I'm giving God a big thanks.
Yes.
To God be the glory, great things he has done. 1 Peter 5 verse 6 and 7. Humble yourself, therefore, send the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. Cast all your cares upon him, for he careth for you. And the reverse is going out to you. I like to send my family in Canada good night. Sympathy is going out to all who lose their loved one. Speedy recovery is going out to my friend Winston Selkridge. Good night. And may God continue to bless us, and have a good night.
Thank you very, very much, my dear. I am really grateful to you for that. Always a beautiful scripture, always something of note that we can use, and I am thankful to you. And I send greetings to my dear friend, Mr. Selkridge, as well. Let's go back to the phones. If there's anybody holding, 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call if you would like to be a part of this show this evening. And, okay, we have somebody holding, so let's go to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hey.
You're on the mark, go ahead.
I want to say good night. Happy birthday to Winston. Winston, the sports hero. Happy birthday, boy. I want to, hey, back. What's it? I don't feel pleased. The man Lego Fox from jail. What killed a mother and a daughter.
Yes.
Time up. Montana, the time up to one, I took two people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
How come you time up, you won 21 then?
Well, I'm listening to you. So your view is you don't think he ought to have been released?
Huh?
Your view is you do not think he should have been released?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Cora. Thank you very much for that. And ladies and gentlemen, if people are wondering what the call is talking about, just I think a day or two before the election, the public was surprised to get the information that some three persons who were serving long sentences at Her Majesty's prison were pardoned by the Governor General and were released. One of whom is referred to as somebody known as Fox, Bertil Fox. He was a famous bodybuilder and he killed a mother and her daughter, and he was released, and two others were also released. And so it set off quite a lot of debate and discussion in the community as to whether or not they ought to have been released, particularly as they were released just 2 days before the election in circumstances where clearly that government had lost its mandate a long time ago. In fact, since May 10th, that government had been operating with only 3 elected members. And so it was worse than a kangaroo cabinet. And I said so all the time that it was a joke. So for them to have been making such far-reaching decisions clearly led to a considerable level of debate and discussion in the community. So that is what this caller was talking about. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, good night, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening, good evening.
Yeah, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm not too bad, sir.
Okay, how can I help you tonight? What do you have for
I listened to you tonight as you look at the NRP. And Mark, it doesn't matter what you say. The NRP, I don't think they will change the position. I think you're doing the right thing in terms of presenting the facts. I mean, presenting the truth and always debunk what they are saying. That is what you have to do. And when you continue to do them things, you're on the right track. So you don't worry yourself, man. You just do what you have to do.
Okay.
Now I want to
yes.
said to you, I was watching the clip today and I saw where Dr. Douglas commend you highly and thank you for the job you did as foreign minister. You hear that? You saw that?
I did not know.
Yeah, he did. I saw it on YouTube when he had his first meeting with his staff, and so he commend you highly, as I said, for the good job, and say that he will continue to build on what you started.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good sign. Mark, I was watching about 2 days ago on YouTube where I saw it was Dwight Astafan,
Mm-hmm.
the host, his name is, I think, Jeff Roy Marisha,
Mm-hmm.
and Dr. Janice Hodge,
Yes.
and also forget the other guy name there. And however, especially the host, Jeff Roy Marisha and Doyer, these people look like they got an agenda.
Mm.
And the agenda is to support the NRP in the upcoming election.
Yes.
I hear them talk about how geothermal project. I mean, you keep talking about it. Nobody know how much money spent on it, and it's only when NRP get into power, then they will know what is going on. And so the guy, he promised Dr. Hodge to is she a doctor?
Yeah, I think she has a PhD. Yes.
Okay. And so he promised her, that he will shortly, have her back on his program, But, Mark, I want them to know that this same NRP, the NRP was formed to fight against the corruption and the injustice and the wickedness of the labor, single labor party, That is why the NRP was formed, from the inception of the single labor party, you're talking about, Bradshaw, you're talking about Southwell, you're talking about Limor, and then down to, Dr. Douglas. This guy, they have treated Nevis in the worst way. And so, when these fellows talking about they want to work with Janice to sit with that NRP win, I want them to know that that party was formed to fight against, as I said, the injustices and the wickedness of the Labour Party. Now, the other thing, Mark, quickly, I heard you had a conversation with Dr. Joe, and that is good. That is good. I must, commend you for that. And Dr. Joe, he need to rewrite the history and heal the political wound between St. Kitts and Nevis. He is in a position to do that. And you would have thought fellows like Dwyer, and the same guy, Marisha, would have talked about, Dr. Joe sitting down with Nevis and working out and treat Nevis in a good way. But no, you're talking about getting rid of CCM, get NRP into power. You know why? Because, Mark, you are a man of integrity. You are hard not to crack. And they cannot turn you like a wheel, like how Douglas been turned NRP when NRP was with them. They can't do it to you. You are a man who look at the facts and you are for the people of Nevis. What I'm asking you to do, Mark, continue to do, is to be honest with the people of Nevis. And once you are honest with the people of Nevis, it's going to take a long time for anybody to put you out from that party. You are doing a good job. Continue to do the job. Continue to do the good job. And God bless you, my brother.
Thank you very much. I allowed you to go on uninterrupted because I clearly you had something to say that I think needed to be said. You still there, caller? Okay, well, we have lost you. But caller, I actually wanted to ask you because I myself am having great difficulty understanding. The NRP has lost every election in this country since 1992. They won, and I put that in inverted commas, won in 2006, but we understand there was massive fraud even then. They came back and tried a thing in 2011. We went to court, and they suffered the shame of having themselves declared null and void. And thereafter, they have lost again, starting in 2013, every election. So 2013 they lost, 2015 they lost, 2017 they lost, 2020 they lost, 2022 they lost. And in fact, the last two defeats, 2020 and 2022, they lost every single federal seat, which is a first. CCM in all its history had never won all the federal seats. We did it for the first time in 2020 and repeated that feat on the 5th of August. And they still will not change their approach. Now, I can sit here and tell you that, to be honest with you, politically, their approach suits me because it makes it easier for the CCM to win. But I don't know that it suits the public and the people of Nevis. Because in a democracy, contending ideas are important. They say when you rub iron on iron, it makes it sharper. But if you keep rubbing iron on some kind of dead wood or some kind of piece of old cardboard, it doesn't help. And the problem that you have is that every election, it seems to me, and matter of fact, I will say it now tonight, the only qualification you need to be a bigwig in NRP is to cuss CCM, and more specifically to cuss Mark. If you cuss he, if you go and you tell them bad things about he, you become a hero for them. Look at some of these foolish bloggers that they're paying money to. Some personal thing they have, and they go and they say, oh, and we now become the big faces and the big names. I have seen the NRP cast aside their stalwarts for some of these Johnny-come-latelys, and I just laugh to myself. I laugh because the stalwarts are asked to take a back seat while some of them, and the only calling card, the only qualification is who can cuss CCM and Mark the most. Not one of them has an idea how we can move Nevis forward. No. As one of them say, if they put a stone to run against Mark, because I have a personal problem with Mark, so I going to vote for the stone. And how will the stone move Nevis forward? But that is what they demand. As for people you say on talk shows and things, I believe if you did a poll in Nevis and you asked divisions who name, whatever name we just called it, they have no idea. No idea. So that's why I keep saying, ignore the noise, yeah? Because a lot of people looking for fame of anointing themselves, saying that they're going to do this and they're going to do that and they're going to do the other. The Labour Party has won the election in St. Kitts. The Labour Party is now the government. Dr. Drew is the new Prime Minister. I had a wonderful meeting with him 2 Fridays ago, and I believe I can do business with the young man, and I'm looking forward to working with him in the interests of our country and our 2 islands. Those who are on the radio and think carrying on, they have won. They are back in government. So what are they making noise for? Let them settle down. Focus on seeing how they could strengthen the government and strengthen the country. Instead of that, now they say they're joining war in Nevis. But since when anybody in Nevis is going to be guided as to how they vote by some talk show host that they don't know? So we put that to one side. We put that in the what I would call do not respond bundle. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you're on the mark. Could you move away from your radio or computer?
Yes. Can I get on the show?
You are on the show.
Good night, sir. I am calling all the way from Belize.
From where?
From Belize.
Belize, yes.
Yes. I am just calling to let you know that we listen to your show here in Belize.
Wonderful.
And I am calling to let you know that I believe and we believe that you're a very eloquent gentleman.
Thank you very much for that compliment, sir. Where in Belize are you? You in Belmopan?
No, I'm in Belize City.
Belize City. Okay. Okay.
And I am congratulating you on the success in your election.
Well, thank you very much, my brother, and thank you for the call. I did not know we had listeners in Belize, so this tonight is very good for us.
Yes, you do have. And we look forward to listening to you every Wednesday night at this time.
Well, that is very kind of you, sir, and I'm delighted that the people in Belize think that we have something valuable to say. Belize is a place that I like. I've been to Ambergris Key. I've been to Belize City.
Okay.
And I have, what do you call it, Bellikin? The bear there?
Bellikin bear.
Bellikin. I have had a few of those.
The best bear in the whole world.
So thank you very much for your call. I truly appreciate it.
Okay, you have a very good night, sir, and we wish you all continued political success.
Thank you, brother.
And you keep up what you are doing. Continue on the road you are going. Keep it the way you have it right now. Don't get it personal. Just continue what you are doing, and you will even go to higher heights. Have a good night, and may God bless you, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much. And I believe this is the first time in 15 years of this show that we've had a call from Belize. And so I sincerely appreciate that.
Oh.
And
okay.
Yes, brother. All right. Take good care.
Okay, sir.
All right. It is good to know that we are reaching all the way there in Belize. And Belize, of course, is part of CARICOM. There are CARICOM brothers and sisters. And I really, that call means a lot to me, because it really says that our reach is so far, through the marvel of the internet, so far beyond our own shores. One never knows who's listening, and I think that is important. Let's go back to the phones. It's 20 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Good evening.
Good evening, you're on the air.
In terms of the, good evening. In terms of the elections, right, I think that those persons coming in from foreign, if they not pay tax and they not live there for maybe a period of time, maybe a 2 months or 3 months, that them not valid to vote. Yeah, that can be contribution to a little bit of the voting.
So would you allow them to vote if they're paying tax?
Huh?
Would you allow them to vote if they're paying tax?
I think so, because once you're paying tax, it almost look like you're here in a way.
Okay, so you would introduce a tax requirement. What if you're living here but you're not paying any tax? You should be allowed to vote?
Well, you pay tax in somewhere because you are living, which means you must buy something. Even if you are begging your boy, you still got on the VAT and wherever. So
you once you're here, then your argument is you should be allowed to vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
But not once you live a foreign and just come in and there and too. You guys come in here and live here and feel the burden like a Somalia.
Okay, got
Unless you have pay taxes here.
Okay. All right. Well, your point is noted, and I accept it, and I certainly believe that those of our brothers and sisters who live overseas would argue that they make contributions in different ways. Some of them do pay taxes here, some of them own property here, some own businesses here. They also come home, they're here to support Culturama, they're here to support Carnival, Music Festival, you name it, they're here. And so their argument would very well be they send home remittances to their families. They send home, in the old days, they used to send the barrels and things like that. So their argument will be that they've contributed significantly to the development here in Nevis, and they should have the right to vote. But I take your view. I think it's a view that is shared by some. And so these are issues I think that we really should have to talk about publicly and come to some understanding as to the best way forward for our country. Let's go back to the phones. We've lost that caller. Callers, please, we'll take this one then. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello, good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Yes, you're on the mark. Go ahead.
This is Sandra here.
Oh, my dear. How are you?
I'm good for now. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Brantley, when I hear Timothy say, the more money he get to need, this is $1 less to think it. It hurt me heart.
Mm-hmm.
He said he had the O, but the O didn't mean it's over for him.
They say it meant over?
Yeah, it is over. Yeah, over for him. He's a bad soul. He's no good. He's done.
Well, I did indicate to him that he was on his way out. He did not listen. And so it is sad. But Sandra, I think when we reflect on this period in our history, you realize that Timothy Harris collapsed the government 3.5 years early.
Yeah, he's a bad man.
Right? And why did he collapse the government? It was all about arrogance, you know. Because to my mind, if you're in a partnership and you want that partnership to last, you listen to your partners. It's not necessarily saying that you're going to give everything, but you listen because you recognize that the power is in the partnership. But he decided he was the one who had the power. I mean, the fact that he felt that he was responsible for other people getting elected. Well, how come the 3 people in CCM still get elected? And he campaigned against us.
It's true.
It tells you that really and truly he had zero relevance, certainly on the island of Nevis.
You
But,
see, he was,
you know, yeah.
he was fooling himself because he's saying he had the O, but he didn't know the O mean over for him. Done.
Well, it's unfortunate, but that is now part of our history, and I believe that.
So where he's going, man.
Yes, so we now have to look forward. Yeah.
Yeah. Good night.
Okay. All right, my dear.
Yeah. Have a good evening.
All right, you too. We're taking your calls. It is 25 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. 869-469-1616. 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call, and we go straight back to the lines. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good night, Mr. Brantley.
Good night to you.
Happy birthday to your daughters.
Thank you so much.
May they live to see many more happy and healthy years.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to you and your dear wife, myself and family are wishing you a happy anniversary and many more loving and blessed years of togetherness. May God bless you every step of the way. Love always.
Thank you so much.
Continue to stay focused.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
God bless you.
I truly appreciate it. That's very beautiful. Thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Bye.
Good. Bye-bye. We're taking your calls, ladies and gentlemen, and we go straight back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello?
Good night.
Yes, good night.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm pretty okay. To begin with, I must say congratulations to you and your party for that resounding victory that I feel so happy about. Okay? Because the tall big fat man over here feel like seem like he want to overthink it. But then what here now? We had something for him. Okay? Okay, good. So much more for that.
Right.
Now a call a while ago saying that, speaking about the overseas voters. I am one to begin with, Mr. Bradshaw. Under Mr. Bradshaw, there is no overseas voters could come in here and vote unless and only for 6 months. And Mr. Herbert and the first Prime Minister had a song and dance about it. That wishing it was right. I do not believe the overseas voters supposed to just come in here and select a government who live here. If they want to vote, they then spend 6 months. That was under Mr. Bradshaw then. If that change from Kennedy Simmons change it. And they must say it's wrong, and I believe and I can still say it's wrong. I'm sorry, it's wrong. Yes, they are petition, yes, they are religion. They want to vote, let them months in the island. And then, fine.
Let me ask you, caller.
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't share your view, but I respect it. I respect it.
That is your right, sir.
Yes, and it's equally your right, and that's why I say on these shows we have to be able to have opposing views sometimes, but have them respectfully and have them content, because a lot of people feel the same way that you feel. But let me ask you this.
Yes.
Some people have made the argument that under our law, if you're not from here, you're from a Commonwealth country, and you live here for 12 months, you can register and vote. So if you come from Nigeria, Ghana, you come from Guyana, you come from Jamaica, you come from England, Canada, and you live here for 1 year, that you can vote. Another man argues and say, well, I was living in Nevis for 40 years, and I left and moved to St. Martin because I needed to go for medical, I needed to go for my job, my family moved, whatever the case may be. And I've been out now for 5 years. So I'm 45 years old. 40 of those years were spent in Nevis. 5 was spent outside. I am told I cannot vote because I'm now overseas. But somebody who came to Nevis 1 year ago can vote. How do you respond to that?
Well, I have a big problem with that, you know. You are not supposed to live in nobody's country right here and be able to vote. I have a problem with that, sir. That should happen. That should not happen.
So what would you suggest then?
At all.
So I'm curious, what would you suggest?
Give them time. Time. For me, I will tell you 5 years. For me, that is my view. Okay?
So you think 5 years before somebody can vote?
Yes.
Okay. No, I'm listening you. I'm listening you.
I believe so. Good.
Okay.
What is your take on that?
My take on what?
The year thing. After the 5 years that I just speak about.
Well, my sense is that we need to start to look seriously at our electoral laws. We need to look and we need to have some public consultation. We need to really get people like yourself and others to share their view, because I have heard a lot of views on this. And I've heard a lot of people who are passionate about retaining their right to vote, because they say that no matter where they roam, Nevis and St. Kitts is their home. And therefore they do not believe that they ought to be removed from making decisions for what they consider to be their home. And I am telling you that I am sympathetic to that view, because I remember my father of blessed memory. He lived abroad for over 40 years. But one thing he always said, Nevis was home, and once he was done with whatever he was trying to make out there, he was going home. And he was one of those who made it back home. He built a home here, retired, and came back. And the connection that a lot of us have, a lot of organizations in the Virgin Islands, in America, in New York, in England, Leeds, Ipswich, wherever you go, they have St. Kitts organization. I went down recently to Statia, where they formed the St. Kitts Nevis Association. I went to Alabama, where I spoke at the St. Kitts Nevis Association. They have them in Houston, Texas. All of these are people who raise money, hurricane relief, contribute to our schools. They do all this because they feel a sense of connection with their home country. And voting is one of the rights that they have. So if you're going to take it away from them, the question is, do you take away from them something that they see as their birthright? They see as part and parcel of them being Kittitian and Nevisian. So that really is the debate. I think it is a debate that is necessary, because there are strong views on either side of the line.
Yep, but the boss, you are not taking away the right, You are not taking away the right.
But I'm saying that is how they see it, because they've had that right since on about 1984.
Right?
Okay. So
that is so true.
So if you have that right since 1984 and you're going to now take it away, you're going to now take it away. Look at CCM, for example, the party that I lead at this point. Those who were around CCM tell me back then that a lot of the meetings and the discussions about the formation of CCM happened in St. Croix, in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Vance Emery himself, the former leader of blessed memory, was going to school in the Virgin Islands at the time when CCM was being put together. A lot of the early persons, Carlisle Jeffers and all of these people, were in the Virgin Islands. But they were visions interested in Nevis. They may be physically someplace else, but their hearts, their minds were always with Nevis and in Nevis. So what do you tell them?
Okay. Now, Mr. Emery.
Yes.
Were in school. Carlisle Jeffers were in school. But then they come back home. Good. They come back home and they saw the country, and they did not leave and go. Now they go, they come. But these people, a lot of them, only come here when an election. And a lot of them don't buy their own ticket. Good. So how on earth you should, you should permit these people to come in and elect a government for you that you ain't wanted. That's not right.
But you say like the
government. Mr. Bratchett is just what he had. I think it will work. But I think he was part of the Caribbean. And also for Jamaica is 6 months. And either St. Lucia somewhere else is Grenada is 3 months. 3 months or 6 months. Not too sure. But the Vinod Island, you have to spend time.
Dominica has the overseas vote as well, I believe. And I think Antigua has it to some extent.
Right.
St. Kitts Nevis, of course, it's a big factor here. But that is, and that's why I said, if you never had it, then the end of the discussion is whether you introduce it. I could understand that.
No, I know, but you are not introducing it.
No, but here's my point. Yeah, here's the point I'm making.
Yes.
If we never had it, and we were debating introducing it, I could understand some of the arguments. But the fact is that we have had it since 1984. And so people feel now, listen, this is our right. This country became independent in 1983.
Yes.
And by 1984, people overseas had the right to vote. In fact, that right was expanded over the years in terms of who could register and all that, because originally it was if you were here registered and you went abroad, then you could come back to vote. But we then started to allow people who mother and father were born here, even though they weren't born here. So you had people on the voters list now.
I don't have no problem with that, you know, boss. Your mother, your father born here, you should be able to get your right.
No, we're not talking about rights, we're talking about the right to vote.
To vote.
Right.
That's a great one.
So what they now say is that, for example, if you're born in England, right? But your mother is from Jessops, then even though you've never been to Jessops in your life, you could come and register in Jessops.
Yes.
If your father is from Tabernacle, you could come and register in Taba.
Yes.
So the law was in fact expanded to allow more people the ability to register and to vote. That is why some people look at our voters list and they say, how is it possible that the population here is only, say, 55,000 and there are 50,000 people on the voters list? But a lot of those people are not people who are living here, they're people overseas.
Come in.
So let me ask you before you go.
Yeah.
If you paid your own ticket to come home to vote, You live in New York.
Yes.
You own a house here. That means you're paying property tax here.
Yes.
You start a little business here. And you come down 2 or 3 times a year. An election is called and you pay your own ticket, come home. Would you say that person should be allowed the right to vote?
As long as you're in the country for a period, that period of time, yes. Whether you have tax, whether you have houses, business, as long as you're living here. Oh no, you say you come home about 3 months.
No, 3 times a year. They don't live here. They live in New York.
Yes.
But they visit
3 times a year.
They visit often because they got business here. They got everything here. Right.
Okay. Well then, that's a different case because then, as you say, they come home 3 times a year, and when they come home this time, the election on, so they can vote. So I think that will be okay with me.
Okay.
That will be okay. Okay.
So you'll make an exception in that case.
Say again.
You would make an exception in that case.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But don't tell me that no. Yes, you have a house here. No business. You come home. You come home only when election on, and you only come home because you get a free ticket and you go vote. No, I don't think that is really bad.
Okay.
That ain't right.
Okay, brother. I got you. Thank you very much for the conversation.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I think that these are the views that I find are fascinating. Different views, all powerful arguments. It's an interesting debate, and the government will have to confront this issue. We'll have to make a determination as to where we go, because clearly there are different and divergent views on it. All I think are cogent, and all which are arguable. Many of our brothers and sisters in the region may not understand the discussion because we have this phenomenon here, what we call the overseas voter, people who don't live here but who are from here and who are on the voters list and have a right to come back and exercise their franchise. And over the years, all the political parties have brought people back home as part of getting out the vote for them to vote. A matter of fact, I believe I shall be here before I depart, but I am to say that the CCM is going to be in New York, in the New York area, and we are hoping to engage just to say thank you to our supporters there, friends of Nevis there, and St. Kitts as well, who want to come. We are inviting people to an appreciation get-together so we can say thank you, and that will be Saturday, September 3rd from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. 15 Kingsbridge Plaza in Mount Vernon. 15 Kingsbridge Plaza, Mount Vernon. Saturday, September 3rd, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. So we'll have some food and drinks and just an opportunity to mingle, to discuss some of these issues, and also to say thank you. We haven't been to New York in a long time because of COVID, but we will be there on September 3rd, God willing. Let's go back to the phones. We have 20 minutes. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening again.
Good evening to you.
As the previous Minister of Aviation, have any thought been put into reviving the Nevis airport in terms of having like some aircraft, like before they used to have like Nevis Express and so. Any thought been put into it, like having an aviation system, even if you travel at cheaper rate between the Caribbean, maybe have a 1-2 flights between St. Kitts, Nevis, closer flight, cheaper flights to St. Martin, and so make the airport a little busy, because living in the St. James's area, the airport look a little bit slow. So me want to know if any start been looking to having what you call it now, aviation business.
Okay, Kuala, very good question, and yes, we continue to try. Matter of fact, I believe that we are going to have again some traffic coming into that airport shortly. The concern that we've had is, obviously, we've said so in the past, that we go out, we get airlines to come, and then for whatever reason our people don't use the service. We brought Seaborne here, In fact, Seaborn came here before they even went to St. Kitts. We had Cape Air that was also here. We had Tradewind Aviation that was here. We had Winair that was here. And all of them eventually pulled out because they said people not using them. So it is one thing, because remember, when the government goes out and negotiates with these airlines, we end up having to pay, meaning that we have to subsidize something called a minimum revenue guarantee that they demand from us. So when the plane comes in empty or leaves empty, the taxpayer has to pay. The only way it makes sense is if people use the service. And as much as people say they want to see planes coming into Van Samri, they just don't use the service, and I can't explain why. I have recounted personal situations where I have been on Seaborn landing St. Kitts, Seaborn going to take off and come to Nevis and sleep in Nevis, and Nivisions on the plane in St. Kitts get off in St. Kitts. And when I ask them where they're going, because the plane going to land in Nevis in the next couple of minutes, they say, no, we're coming off down here, we're going to take the boat and come over. So it is a difficult issue, caller. I personally don't understand the thinking, because for me, the easiest thing in the world to do would be to go to the airport, park up, grab your bags, get on the plane and go where you're going. But for some reason, people want to take the water taxi, then they take the bus or the taxi, land taxi, they go to RLB, they leave from RLB. Sometimes they take the same flight that is here in Nevis, that is the flight that they take out of RLB. So, short answer is, we are trying yet again, and we hope for this season to have some traffic. Long answer is, we are hopeful this time that when the traffic comes, that our people will use it. So that's where we are. We have 15 minutes left, and we're taking your calls. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Okay, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute, please. Okay, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute, please. Okay, hold on a minute. Yes, there is a level playing field regarding all the political parties, and they have the opportunity to bring in voters to vote for them, whether CCM, Labour, NRP, and whatever the other party is. So, based on that, it's a level playing field. So all these calls you're getting regarding opposition to the overseas voters are not relevant, because everybody again has the opportunity to bring in voters, and people, when they come, they vote for who they want.
But caller, I think that the argument though that the gentleman was making wasn't so much that. He was actually questioning whether it was appropriate that people living overseas should have the right to vote here, as he put it, to decide a government for us. That suggests, the implicit in that is that those people are not of us, because for me, when they elect a government for us and for them, because they're in a vision. So that really is the issue for me. What the philosophy behind it? Philosophically, do you agree that the people who live overseas but are of us should have the right to vote?
Well, you brought in onto the fore the fellow who comes 3 or 4 times a year, and he has actually agreed with that process regarding his owning a business, he owns property, as the case might be. So he's not totally opposed to the overseas voter. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for that very much. It's an interesting topic. Let me just say that. We'll have to dedicate, I think, a lot of consultation, a lot of discussion to that. In fact, the Timothy Harris-led administration wanted to do away with the overseas vote. And I said no, the CCM would not countenance that, because my own view was that it would take away something, a right that our people had. And so we stood up, and eventually it didn't happen. But he was quite ready to disenfranchise those who lived overseas. And I just felt, as a party that had fought for people to have the right to vote, it was philosophically the wrong thing to do, to deny our people that right. But as I said, I understand the debate and I welcome it. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hello?
You are on the mark. Go ahead, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
My only problem with the overseas workers, the overseas voters,
Yes.
some of them who come here to vote, they cannot vote where they're working, they cannot vote over there. So why are they coming here? Because they're getting a free trip to make a decision for me. That's the only problem I have. As long as you're paying your tax and whatnot, you can come.
So let me ask you, you said they cannot vote over there where they live.
Some of them live overseas for years
And they can't
vote in their country where they are.
Yes. But that might actually be a reason why they
yes,
argue.
But then why come here to make a decision for me?
But hear my point now.
Okay.
That might actually be a reason why they argue they should have the right to vote in the land of their birth. Because
but some of them don't even know St. Kitts. They don't. When they come here, they're putting up and down the place. This is what I'm talking about.
Well, there's some, but I think in fairness.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
but there's something, because I agree. People sending home the taxes and whatnot. They have property. They had a family here. I don't have a problem with that. But you see people coming, they have their bag up and down. They don't know where to go. And things like that. I don't agree with that part.
Okay.
That's my problem with it.
All right.
Okay?
So how would you suggest that we solve the problem? What would your recommendation be? My
recommendation is, you know who they are. I don't know. It can take some time to get it straightened out. That is how I see it. You know who are living in St. Kitts, okay? They claim that the mother live here and the father live here, but they ain't come to do nothing here. And they vote. Okay, they didn't even spend a week here to give us some taxes then to spend some money for us. They come, they vote one day, and they go back on the weekend. I don't like that. You don't come and make a decision for me. I can't go in your country. You can't vote where you are, but you come in here and make a decision for me. I don't like that.
Well, when you say they make a decision for you,
they come to vote.
Well, yes, but when you say they make a decision for you, they would argue that they're also making the decision for them because this is their country.
No, but they're not living here. This is what I'm saying.
Yes.
I'm not talking about those who live here and do it. These are just like tourists then. They get a free trip and they come here. And their name appear on the voters list. You're asking who this is, you can't find out. That's the problem I have.
Okay. Well, I hear you loudly. As I said, I think it's an interesting debate. And I accept your view. It may not be mine, but I certainly accept it, and you've expressed it eloquently. So thank you for your call.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good.
Bye.
We have 10 minutes left in the show. We're taking your calls. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark. Okay, we've lost that caller. Then let's try this caller then. Caller, good evening. You're on the mark. Hello? 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 Caller?
Good evening.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Good evening, everybody out there in Radioland, and good evening, the Sheriff, Premier Mark Brantley. How are you doing this evening?
I am doing well. Good to hear you, brother. What do you have for us tonight?
I am just saying that in terms of their charisma and depth, you're unsurpassed. But tonight I am somewhat conflicted. And I'm heartened to call tonight because of the composed manner in which you handle some very contentious issues, even the one that preceded me. But I can easily assert that with your innate intelligence, your abundant experience and clear-eyed pragmatism, it would or should be easy for you to conclude that we are not living in utopia. We are, every one of us, imperfect while striving for the best, and governments are no exception. The NRP party in times past has made some egregious mistakes, and I pounded them for it, as has the former Labour Party, both of whom were punished for their missteps. Now the Labour Party reformed and was redeemed Why shouldn't the same principle apply to the newly reformed NRP party? That's my first question. And I hasten to add that in contemplating this, I feel curiously unsettled because almost grudgingly tonight I still remain one of your biggest admirers. Yet, in spite of your brilliant and incisive presentation tonight, I listened to you, and you are so galvanizing. The sad and tragic fact remains unalterably clear. You failed in the first tripartite coalition that captures the imagination of a people sickened and repulsed by the divisive politics that had for so long held sway in this land. And we voted you in a landslide victory. And yet in closing, I have to say, 7 years later, after a spectacular start, by any standard, you did worse than all that went before. Small wonder the sweep was so complete. But to me, in spite of my joy, I'm still left somewhat divided. And you would ask me why before I hang up. And I would tell you why. And be tolerant with me, please. Because I've always concurred with Muhammad Ali, who famously said, if you kill the head, the body would die. Mm-hmm. And in fact, leaving the heads of all three parties, all three of you remain. That causes such collective pain, I believe, will in time turn out to be a monumental national mistake. But the people of Nevis have spoken. We want them to do good. And so I just said that I hope you use this probationary period to do the greatest good to the greatest number of people. Right over there in Nevis, Mr. Prime Minister, and I thank you for permitting me to unburden tonight, because you know how I was with this party.
Of course.
Thanks for hearing me out tonight.
All right.
You have a great one, and may God richly bless you.
Good. May God bless you as well, brother. And I thank you for that. I recognize the voice. I recognize the eloquence, because you have always brought that to the table. And the erudite way in which you have expressed yourself, that is your trademark. You said that we all failed, and I understand that sentiment. But nobody has really looked at the reality that there are some of us who, while some argue we stayed for too long, ultimately left the fold. And this election that would have happened, where the Labour Party has now been ushered into government, came 3 years early. It didn't have to, because I could have said to my team, let us continue to bear it, grunt and bear it. Let us continue to collect our salary. Let us continue to do all the selfish things that we could have done. Sean Richards and his team could have said likewise. And I feel, caller, that sometimes in the effort to say that we are all alike and we all should be punished, that commentators are not looking at the reality of the situation, that this government was ultimately brought to an end because we said enough was enough, and that we would not and could not continue down a path that was inconsistent with the principles that we had not only enunciated, not only articulated, but committed to writing, and that had been signed off on by the very leadership who now turned his back on those principles and said that they were no longer applicable, as he put it, just a piece of paper. So, what were we to do? Were we to continue down a path that we know was inconsistent with the path of principle? Or were we to do what we did, which was to stand up? And whilst I hear the argument that why you didn't stand up earlier, the bottom line is that we did stand, and history will record that we did stand. And so you say everybody should have been punished, and perhaps you're right. But the people of Nevis did not agree with you, and their voice is the voice of God. Because they said that these 3 Hebrew boys that we sent in 2020, we find in them no blemish. They did nothing wrong. To the contrary, they stood up for Nevis and they stood on principle. And they rewarded us by returning all 3 in a comprehensive way to our seats. For only the second time in history, we had a clean sweep and Nevis remained blue. So we ought not to be upset with the people of Nevis. They found no fault in us. And when we talk about clean sweep, we must be careful and delicate with our language, because at the end of the day there are 11 seats in the parliament, and the government that has been elected has 6. It therefore means that they only have a 1-seat majority. So whilst there was a clean sweep on St. Kitts, with 6 of 8 seats going to the Labour Party, and Dr. Drew now has the perfect opportunity to be the best Prime Minister the country has ever seen. In Nevis, we also had the people speaking eloquently, caller. And they have said that in these 3 Hebrew boys they find no fault. And they rewarded us for our position, which was one born of principle. And that, my friend, has to be worth something. And so, your view is that everybody should have been punished. The people of Nevis do not agree with you. And I thank them, because in us they see the best representation that they have available to them in Bastia and anywhere else. So, thank you. Always like engaging with you, but forgive me if I depart from your own viewpoint, because this notion that somehow all of us failed doesn't quite tell the whole story, because some of us dared to stand up. Some of us dared to stand up. And the result was that we had an early election and the country has corrected course. It is my hope, and I have expressed this to him, so I say nothing that I have not said to him privately, that our new Prime Minister, Prime Minister Terence Drew, who comes with a clean slate, will use this opportunity to heal the nation and allow all of our people, Kittitians and Nevisians, to move together as one and to put their shoulders to the plow to build this beautiful country into the best small island state anywhere in the world. To that, caller, I and my team are committed, as we have always been. But that does not mean that as Nevisians we should sit back and be told to ride in the back of the bus or be treated as if we're second-class citizens in our own country. No, that we will not accept. And so our position is clear, and our remit is clear, and the mandate given to us by the people of Nevis is clear. We will represent because they have said that we are the best team to represent them and their interests. We are the ones who embody the Nevisian spirit. That is what they have said, and I believe we ought to listen to them. Ladies and gentlemen, the band has struck up. It means we have to go. Let me just ask you to save the date, because we have finalized that we will be having our National Heroes Day concert is back. Free concert. It will be at the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park, and it will be on Friday, September 16th, 2022, starting at 7 p.m. and going until 3 a.m. I'm told we have some big bands coming in, some reggae bands, some other bands. We have some big artists, and so save the date. You'll have more details soon. Friday the 16th, all roads lead to the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park. We invite our brothers and sisters from St. Kitts to come over. I believe the last time we had Steel Pulse and Third World. So we'll see who we have this time around. Thank you, good night, and God bless you.
And opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and